The filming of The Passion of the Christ was marked by events that many describe as inexplicable and mysterious. Jim Caviezel, the lead actor, suffered real injuries during filming, from accidental whiplash to being struck by lightning. But is it possible that these events are just coincidences, or is there something deeper behind this logic-defying project? It's strange, but the answer seems to lie in the intense spiritual connection that surrounded the creation. From its conception, Mel Gibson knew this would not be a conventional project. If you enjoy content that helps you grow spiritually, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and join our community for more inspiration. Let's get started. He decided to portray the last hours of Jesus with unprecedented authenticity, filming in Aramaic, Latin, and Hebrew, and resorting to settings so realistic that they would transport the viewer to first-century Jerusalem. This decision represented not only a technical and artistic challenge, but also a spiritual one, as subsequent events would prove. One of the most shocking moments occurred when Caviezel, carrying a real and heavy cross, suffered a dislocated shoulder when he fell during a scene. The pain he expressed was not acting, but a genuine reaction, which added a haunting level of realism to the film. In addition, during the filming of one of the more brutal scenes, the actor accidentally received a whiplash that left him with a permanent scar. Added to this was the bizarre incident in which he was struck by lightning, an event that many consider a divine sign or a reminder of the sacrifice he was portraying. The technical team also reported unusual phenomena. Some members claimed to have felt unexplained presences on the set, and others recounted how filming equipment failed for no apparent reason at key moments. These accounts, far from discouraging the team, seemed to strengthen their resolve. According to them, they were participating in something bigger than just a movie. Even though it was criticized at first, mostly for the gory violence and anti-Semitism claims, Mel Gibson stood by his vision as a work that was very true to the Bible. His personal commitment was so great that he financed the production with $30 million out of his own pocket, facing rejection from major studios that did not believe in the project. The spirit of sacrifice and faith not only characterized Gibson, but also Caviezel, who, before accepting the role, was warned by the director about the possible repercussions on his career. Even so, the actor responded with a firm conviction. "I think we have to do it, even if it's hard." This decision sealed his commitment to a film that, from the outset, seemed destined to transcend the screen and become a unique spiritual and cinematic phenomenon. On a film set where every day seemed both a physical and spiritual battle, the commitment of the cast and crew became the driving force behind the project. Between torrential rains and freezing nights, the actors faced not only the rigor of the scenes, but also an environment charged with symbolism and events that few dared to question. We all face challenges that test our strength and faith, moments in which we search for something that gives meaning to what we live. This is exactly what The Secret of Jesus' Apparitions offers, a path to clarity and peace through his revelations. This ebook delves into his prophecies and offers a glimpse of what lies ahead. It is available for free in the anchored commentary. Grab it now before editions run out. One striking example occurred during a particularly challenging day. While shooting a scene in the bush, the weather, which had been calm all morning, changed abruptly. An unexpected gale blew through the production tents, and lightning struck just a few meters from the crew. This incident, though alarming, was taken by many as a reminder of the spiritual purpose of the project. Some members commented that they felt an inexplicable connection to what they were portraying, as if they were recreating something more than a cinematic story. The supporting actors also had life-changing experiences. For example, Claudia Guerini, who played Pilate's wife, recounted how she had recurring dreams during filming in which she saw passages of Jesus' life that were not in the script. She said that these dreams made her think a lot about her faith and her place in the world. Although she did not share this openly at the time, she assured that her perception of spirituality changed radically after working on The Passion of the Christ. But it wasn't all mystical. The physical demands of filming also left literal scars on the cast. Hristo Shopov, who played Pontius Pilate, suffered a wrist injury during a scene where he had to hit a table hard. Despite the pain, he continued filming, convinced that any sacrifice was minimal compared to the message they sought to convey. This dedication to realism was shared by everyone from the technicians to the principal actors. Meanwhile, Mel Gibson watched the development with a mixture of admiration and concern. While it was clear that the adversities strengthened the team's emotional connection to the project, he was also aware of the physical and mental impact these experiences were having on them. For many, however, this absolute surrender was a way of paying tribute to the figure they were portraying and the deeper meaning of the story they were telling. Each obstacle faced seemed to reaffirm the collective commitment that this was not just another film, but a living testimony of faith, sacrifice, and hope. Whatever happened in front of the cameras, however intense, seemed to pale before the echoes of something much greater that resonated in the hearts of all involved. The atmosphere on the set of The Passion of the Christ remained a space where the extraordinary met the everyday, leaving everyone involved with a mixture of awe and reflection. One day, during the preparation of a key scene, the technical team experienced an unexplained failure in the lighting equipment. Despite constant checks and proper maintenance, the main lights would randomly go out just before the cameras started rolling. As you discover more about the challenges and delivery experienced on this project, remember that you can still access a book that can transform your perspective. So be sure to get yours before they sell out. Faced with this problem, the electricians checked the circuits without finding any visible defects. Some members of the team, somewhat uneasy, began to comment quietly that perhaps there were higher forces at work. But what was most striking was how, in those moments of technical uncertainty, the spontaneous prayers of those present seemed to restore normality, and the lights came back on without logical explanation. For their part, the actors faced equally disconcerting situations. Maya Morgenstern, who played Maria, later shared how she had felt an overwhelming connection to the role. On one occasion, during the scene in which she held Jesus' body, Maya said she experienced such deep emotional pain that at the conclusion of the day's filming, she needed hours to recover from what she described as shared suffering. Although she was aware that she was acting, she said that at that moment she felt a direct bond with all mothers who have lost a child. Meanwhile, tensions were mounting behind the scenes. Mel Gibson, known for his perfectionism, began to appear more and more emotionally affected by the constant difficulties they faced. However, his moments of frustration were quickly replaced by gestures of solidarity with his crew. On one occasion, noting that several extras were working in extremely cold conditions, Gibson ordered a halt to filming until everyone received blankets and hot tea. For many, that gesture reflected a commitment not only to the production, but also to the well-being of everyone involved. One incident that left everyone speechless occurred during the filming of a crowd scene. In the middle of the shot, several extras claimed to have seen a figure walking among them that did not belong to the cast. Dressed in light robes, this person was moving quietly, and although several tried to locate him at the end of the day, no one was able to identify him. This event, like many others, contributed to the perception that there was something inexplicably sacred about everything surrounding the making of this film. After the release of the movie, the impact was not limited to theaters. The film generated a wave of reactions that crossed borders, provoking intense debate in both religious and secular circles. In the Vatican, church leaders debated the graphic representation of the scenes, while some felt that the film succeeded in conveying Jesus' sacrifice with rawness and sincerity. On the other hand, in more conservative Christian communities, there was debate over whether the interpretation could lead to misunderstandings about certain biblical passages. Jim Caviezel, who had given his body and his health to the role, experienced the consequences firsthand. Although his performance was critically acclaimed, his Hollywood career was significantly affected. He, openly devoted, stated in later interviews that he had accepted that reality with serenity, as he considered his participation in the film more important than any professional recognition. Internationally, the film faced censorship in some countries, where authorities considered the scenes too explicit for their audiences. This, however, did not stop millions of people around the world from seeking alternative ways to access the content. In markets in the Middle East and Asia, the film circulated unofficially, becoming a phenomenon that spurred conversations about religion and spirituality in contexts where such discussions were rarely public. Did you know that you can still get a resource that complements these reflections? A book full of teachings that could guide you in your own challenges is available, but few copies remain. Meanwhile, Mel Gibson, far from being intimidated by the criticism, continued to defend his vision. At a press conference in Rome, the director explained that his intention had never been to soften the message, but to show the story of Jesus in a visceral way, making each viewer feel the weight of the sacrifice. This stance divided opinions, but also appealed to a diverse audience, including those not normally attracted to films with religious content. The film's economic impact was just as staggering. With a $30 million budget financed by Gibson himself, The Passion of the Christ grossed more than $600 million worldwide, breaking records for religious-themed films. This financial success enabled the director and crew to support faith-related charitable initiatives, a lesser-known aspect, but one that marked a lasting legacy for the project. The path the film took after its release continued to be as complex and revealing as the events that occurred during its making, leaving marks both cinematically, culturally, and spiritually. The creation of The Passion of the Christ was marked by a meticulous focus on historical and cultural authenticity. From the outset, Mel Gibson insisted that every detail must accurately reflect the context of the first century. To this end, the production team relied on historical and theological advisors to guide the development of the script and the recreation of the settings. These specialists analyzed ancient texts, mosaics, and manuscripts with the aim of constructing a story faithful to the traditions and customs of the time. One of the highlights was the use of ancient languages such as Aramaic, Latin, and Hebrew, a significant technical and acting challenge. The performers spent weeks learning the dialogue in these languages, while linguistic coaches corrected pronunciation and intonation in each scene. Although this decision complicated the filming process, Gibson defended his vision, arguing that the original language conferred a deeper connection to the historical events. The recreation of the sets was equally ambitious. The cobblestone streets of Matera, Italy, were transformed into a convincing version of ancient Jerusalem. Local artists and carpenters worked for months to build structures that looked as if they had stood for centuries, while costume designers crafted each garment based on archaeological depictions. This level of detail created such an immersive environment that many actors commented that they felt they had traveled back in time while filming. The script also went through extensive revisions. Originally, Gibson considered including some apocryphal passages, but theological advisors suggested keeping the focus on the canonical texts to avoid misunderstandings. This adaptation process generated internal debates as the team sought a balance between biblical fidelity and the narrative needs of a cinematic work. In addition, there were creative decisions that challenged the traditional expectations of religious cinema. For example, the depiction of Satan as an androgynous, ethereal figure was a deliberate choice to convey ambiguity and deception. Rosalinda Celentano, the actress who played this role, recounted how she prepared psychologically to embody this duality, seeking to reflect a disturbing yet seductive presence. Every element of the production, from design to performance, became an act of commitment to the unique vision of the project. This level of detail and rigor left a significant mark on film history, redefining the standards of authenticity in religious-themed films. Use this chance to learn more about these lessons in life. Download the ebook before copies sell out. It's a gift waiting for you at the pinned link. The legacy of The Passion of the Christ did not end with its release. Its impact spread over the years, marking a before and after in religious cinema and initiatives stemming from its success. In 2005, barely a year after its release, proposals began to emerge to restore and re-release the film with unreleased materials. Among the ideas discussed was to include interviews with the cast about their transformative experience and scenes that had not made the final cut. One of the most fascinating aspects was the film's influence on the renaissance of religious-themed cinema. Directors from around the world began to take biblical and spiritual stories more seriously, inspired by the realism and emotional depth that Mel Gibson had achieved. This phenomenon also prompted religious communities to use film as an educational tool, screening the film at events and workshops for spiritual reflection. In parallel, charitable projects funded by Mel himself and others involved in the production sprang up. Part of the film's proceeds went to building hospitals and schools in needy communities, especially in countries where extreme poverty was a persistent problem. These actions were seen as an extension of the message of compassion and sacrifice that the film sought to convey. The restoration of The Passion of the Christ also included the digitization of the original archives, allowing the film to be adapted to new projection and streaming technologies. This made it easier for younger generations, accustomed to digital formats, to experience the work in high definition. He revealed his interest in a sequel entitled The Resurrection of Christ, a project that promised to explore the events following the crucifixion with the same narrative intensity and historical rigor. If this message makes you think and you feel it connects with you, don't forget to like it, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment. Also, if you really want to support our work and help us keep creating valuable content, consider giving us a super thanks. Join this amazing community and don't miss any news. At film festivals and conferences, discussions about the movie continued for years. Critics, theologians, and filmmakers discussed the balance between art and spirituality, while some questioned whether the film had opened the door to a more raw and authentic representation of faith in cinema. The cultural impact was also reflected in popular language. Expressions and scenes from the film became recurring references, and its soundtrack, composed by John Debney, gained notoriety for capturing the emotional essence of each moment. The echo of the film lives on, transcending cinema to become a work that continues to invite spiritual and cultural reflection.